So let's practice with an old example first. Zoom in a little bit here. So I'm just putting in this in our other notes in our learning log. So example, if I know, let's say that the y-intercept for a line is at 2 and the slope of a line is at -1/3, we should be pretty confident at this point writing the equation of a line. Go ahead and give that a shot right now on your own. See if you can do that on your own right now. If I tell you what the y-intercept and the slope is, can you write me an equation? You got it already? Anybody want to be brave and share their equation with us? Oh, come on, someone be brave. Yeah, what do you got? Okay. Well, let me give you a quick reminder. We're going to have something in front of our x and then something at the end. And one of those things is a 2 and one of them is a -1/3. What do we got? The -1/3 comes in front of the x and the 2 comes at the end. Agreed? Agreed? All right. Very good. Okay, let me give you another one of these. I'm putting it right next door. You can put yours down below if you don't have space. What if I tell you the slope is 4 and it goes through the point 0, 5? The slope is 4 and it's going to go through the point 0, 5. This one's a little bit trickier. Slope is 4 and it goes through 0, 5. Anybody want to be brave on this one? This one's a little bit weirder. What do you think?
Y equals 4x plus 5.
Y equals 4x plus 5. Anybody else want to vote for y equals 4x plus 5? I'm seeing a couple other nods. Several other nods. All right. Montana, can I put you on the spot real quick? If that's true, that means that this point has to be the y-intercept. Correct?
Yeah.
How did you know for a fact that that was going to be a y-intercept? Yes. Nice. All right, so anytime we have a 0 for the x-coordinate, then you're looking at a y-intercept. We kind of talked about that just a minute ago, right? So if it has a 0 for x, that means it's automatically a y-intercept. I'm supposed to say if it has a 0 for x. I'm going to change it just so it says x equals 0. Be a little neater and more mathy. X equals 0, and it's automatically a y-intercept. Now, if that had said 1, 5, then we couldn't have done that, right? And that's what we're going to learn today is what do we do if they give us a slope and a point, and that point is not the y-intercept. So these are kind of basic examples. We're going to move on to some more advanced examples. So I'm going to show you 2 examples of this, and then I'm going to give you some time to practice these. All right, so here's our next example. I've got a slope of -1. And a point 1, comma 2. Now, is this point a y-intercept? No, we know for a fact it's not a y-intercept because what's it missing? Doesn't have that 0 for the x coordinate. So we can't just go y equals negative 1x plus 2. We can't do that. 2 is a y coordinate, but this is not the y-intercept. So here's what we're going to do instead. So I'm gonna walk you through some steps here. So step 1, go ahead and write this down for me. Y equals, what would go in front of the x for sure? Negative 1 goes in front of our x because that is the slope. We're going to say plus b. I don't know what b is. Okay. So this is step 1, and I'd like to annotate this by writing down in words what I just did. So what did I do? I'm going to say I write the equation with the slope and variable b. We don't have a number in place of that b right now. We've got a variable. So would you agree that all I really need is to figure out what number goes in place of b, and then we're done with this problem, right? We just have to figure out what b is, and then we put that number right here, and then we're finished. How are we going to find it? Does anybody know how we're going to find b? The next step is kind of the key. All right, let me give you a hint. I'm going to rewrite this equation. I'll leave out all of my x's and y's. Does anybody want to guess what I'm going to put in place of my y here and my x here? Anybody want to take a guess? I'm going to put numbers in here. Anybody want to guess what number I'm going to put in place of my y? What do you think? Where the x was, I'm going to put 1. And where the y was, I'm going to put 2. Do you see where Montana's getting that from? Where the x was, I'm going to put 1. Where the y was, I'm going to put 2. You get it from this point right here, right? Because the x coordinate of this point was 1 and the y coordinate of that point was 2. So put the 2 in place where the y was, and put the 1 in place where the x was. All right, let's write down in words what did we do there. Anybody, how would you write that down? What did we do? I'm going to use the word substitute. So I wrote substitute the x and y from the point into the equation. That's how I kind of see it. We took these x and y values and we popped them into our equation. I'm drawing some little arrows here. I'm a visual type person, so arrows help me to see where stuff's coming from. For this next step, I'm going to tell you what the step is, and I'm going to ask you to do it. Instead of showing you what it is and telling you what the words are, we'll do it the opposite direction. Solve for b. You all know how to solve equations, so do your algebra steps to get b by itself there. parentheses, -1 times 1 is -1. So I simplified it. I'm going to do +1 on both sides to get b by itself. All right, I got 3 for B. Is that what you guys were getting to? All right, so we almost had our final answer right from the beginning, right? We were just missing one piece, but now we know the piece that we're missing. So what's my final answer? Yeah, exactly. Good. Y equals -1x plus 3. Right? That's everything that we had at the beginning, and then we just added our b value in. All right, any questions? So I'm going to do another example. You can choose if you want to do your other example. In this space down here, I've actually got enough room, I think, over on the side here to do it right next to the steps again. So I think that's how I'm going to do mine. But if you want to make sure you save some extra room on this page for additional information, you're welcome to put the second example into your notes or scratch paper or wherever you want to put it. So, but I'm going to do mine right on the side here. So here's my second example. So the slope is 7/5. And the point is -5, -2. So I'm just going to follow these same steps that we just did, but this time we have a different slope and a different point. I think it's usually good to label that point with X and Y because it's really easy to get those flipped around when you put a substitute. So if you're feeling pretty confident, I challenge you to go ahead and work ahead on this problem and see if you can come up with the correct answer. If you're still not 100% sure, then just stick with me and we'll work through it together. So step 1 says to write an equation with the slope and the variable b. So I'm going to use the 7/5, but I don't know what b is, so I'm just going to put a b at the end. So y equals mx plus b. I know m is the slope, and then my x plus, and I don't know what b is yet, so I'm going to leave the variable b in its place. So that would be my first step. For my second step, it says substitute x and y from the point in the equation. So let me get this set up. I'm rewriting my equation without x's or y's in it. Everything else stays the same. But x's and y's turn into blank parentheses. And then I need to get the x in the right place and the y in the right place. Be careful on this step. It would be really easy to put the -5 right here, but do you see why the -5 does not go right here? Because that's the y. This is the y. The y needs to be -2, and the x is -5. Now I gotta solve for b, which means I need to rewrite this equation, simplify it. I'll go with that -2. Those parentheses aren't really doing anything. All right, let me give you the cheat code for fractions here. Okay, if you don't know this yet, you want to learn this. First of all, when I multiply a positive times a negative, what's my answer going to be? Negative. Okay, so go ahead and put the negative in, and we won't worry about that for right now. I'm just going to think about 7/5 times 5. Okay, when you multiply by a fraction, you're doing two things. You're dividing by the bottom number, and you're multiplying by the top number in whatever order you want. I usually choose to divide first. So think about this 5. What is 5 divided by 5? 5 divided by 5 is what? 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1 times 7. What's 1 times 7? 7. I got that mentally by going 5 divided by 5 times 7. So take your whole number, divide by the thing on the bottom, multiply by the thing on the top. You can do it in whatever order you want. If I'd gone 5 times 7 first, what's 5 times 7? 35 divided by 5 is 7. It doesn't matter which way you do it. I usually divide first because that makes it smaller. And you usually have smaller numbers to deal with. Okay, so that's plus b. One more step to get b by itself. How are we going to get rid of this -7? Add 7 both sides. -2 plus 7 is 5. Final answer, y equals, what was my slope again? 7/5x. Now I know that it's plus 5. I almost put plus b there, but I salvaged it again. All right, we're going to be practicing with this today. I'm going to pass out a practice sheet. It's just got 6 problems like this on it. So it looks like this. I want you to do the first 6 problems, and then go ahead and skip 7 and 8. If you get done with those 6 problems, work on the problems on the back side. One more, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's go and get started on these. I'm going to work quietly through number 1, quietly and slowly. So if you still feel like you need another example, feel free to watch me. Otherwise, just go ahead and get moving on those. All the same stuff that you just wrote down in your notes. So you can have that notes page open so you can follow the same exact steps. So I've got answers up here for 1 through 4. I think most people have checked 1 and 2 at this point. You should definitely have 2 done by now. If not, you need to get my attention here in a moment when we get started on homework, and let me sit down and work with you on that. Okay. I know that some of you got through 5 and 6, so if you could please check 4, 5, and 6 for me. 3, 4, 5, and 6 also. I didn't have these up on the screen previously. So if you did finish 5 and 6, could you please check your answers on 5 and 6? Folks, this is going to become part of your homework. Okay, this will be part of your homework for today. And I'll give you the rest of it in a moment, but we're going to do, the whole sheet's going to be part of your homework. So the backside, you're just graphing. I'm going to do problem 7 with you right now. So I need you to, unless you've already finished 7. How many people have done 7 already? Has anybody made an attempt at that? Let me give you an answer. Check and see how you did on that. If you got that equation, then you're good to go. You can ignore me. If you didn't get that equation, or if you haven't tried it yet, I want you to stick with me. We're going to do number 7 together right now, okay? All right, here's what I need you to do to start 7. Right now, everybody should be with me working on number 7, unless you have already done it, got the correct answer. You guys with me? I got a couple of people who need to pick their heads up and look up at the board. Okay, we're on number 7 right now. Where does my thing focuses? All right, we're going to write these 2 points and stack them on top of each other. 4, -4. I know they're right there, but go ahead and write them and stack them on top of each other down here where we got a little bit of space. Because this makes it easy for us to figure out what our slope is. Okay, if we're going to try and write the equation of this line, we need 2 things. We need a slope and we need a y-intercept. So let's start with the thing that we know how to do. I know you guys can find the slope from 2 points because we did it at the beginning of class. What is my change in x for these 2 points? +2 or -2? I'm going from 4 to negative. So from 4 to 2, I'd be going down. So that's -2. So change in x is -2. What is my change in y for these 2 points? Be careful here. I'm going up by 1 to get from -4 to -3. I'm getting less negative. So I'm going up by 1. So then what is our slope? Remember, our slope is change in y on the top, change in x on the bottom. So our slope would be 1 over -2. And we would write our final version of that as a positive slope or a negative slope. So positive divided by a negative, that's going to be a negative slope. So -1 over 2 for our final slope. Any questions about how we found slope? So we have half of what we need to write our equation. Now let's go ahead and start writing our equation. Y equals, and then the slope comes next before the x. So the slope that we found was -1/2. Plus, we don't know what b is, so we're just going to put a b there. So this looks a lot like the problems that we just did, right? So let's see if we can find some x and y values to substitute in for this equation. Anybody want to be brave and suggest some x and y values that we could substitute in here? What if I were to tell you you've got 2 options? What's one of my options? 4 and -4 would be one option because the line definitely goes through that point, right? Or what's my other option? 2 and -3. Which one would you guys want to do? Do you want to do the 4 and the -4 or the 2 and the -3? 4 and -4 it is. All right. So the x was 4. We'll put that here. The y was -4. We'll put that here. Okay. Thank you. Do you want to run down to the office and grab another box? Yeah. Take the pass with you there. All right, so I chose the 4 and the -4. If anybody else chose the 2 and the -3, you're going to get the same answer as us in just a moment for B. So it doesn't matter which point you choose, just pick one or the other. All right, let's simplify this. That's just -4 equals, what's the half of 4? Half times 4 would be half of 4. And it's negative. So -2 plus B. And then add 2 on both sides, and you got your value for B, and we're done. -4 plus 2 is -2. We've got B all by itself now, so we can write our final equation. Y equals -1/2 x plus -2 would be the same as -2. All right, your homework is to finish the sheets, including the backside. On the backside, you're going to be graphing some lines. And then I'm just going to give you a couple more out of the book. Today's the 7th, right? So this would be due on the 9th. And then let's do 84 and 85. All right. At this point, we've got about 10 minutes remaining in class. Folks, I expect us to use these 10 minutes. Please, if you'd like to move and work with someone else, you're welcome to do that, but I need you to get started. Please get my attention if you have questions over anything that we did today.